Oh, this is Ben.
Hey guys, it's Ben. Jeremy!
What up? And
Ben.
And Ben.
And Ben.
And Ben.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is the first time now we're doing. We're going to try this out and see if this mics work. We have 3 people on here. I feel like it's going to be good.
Why don't you introduce Ben?
Why didn't I, or why?
No, you should, right now.
Oh, this is Ben.
Hey guys, it's Ben. But who is Ben?
Who are you? Tell us about yourself.
Who's Ben?
Yeah.
Ben is a real estate agent here at John L. Scott, Tacoma North. I get to work with my lovely cousin, Jerry Martini. And I hopefully get to throw some loans Todd's way. But yeah, I'm super excited that you guys are having me.
And he's single, ladies.
Yeah.
That is
Bring
true.
that out. We're
Yeah.
going to make this martini dating time.
Ooh. We can have 4 on here if you want to. We can have
Yeah.
like some interviews, some girls. We can do all that.
Reach out to one of these 2 fellas, and we'll see what happens.
We can actually ask the questions and we can see if it's a good match.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll,
I think
you
that
guys
would
would
be
be kind
great.
of the screeners.
Yeah.
You know.
And it'll be like, what's your credit score? Make sure that they're later on down life that she's gonna be good. But
Can
anyway,
she support me later on in life when I do not want to work?
wow. Okay.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Already. Bring
On
it
that
on
note,
to the table.
this is how we do it.
Here we go.
We
Let's
cheers
have a
to
little
martinis.
Little martini. Hey, what are we having for the 3rd or 4th straight week? It's a dirty martini.
But it's like extra freaking
it's kind of filthy
dirty.
today.
Wow, that is like extra dirty.
That's straight gasoline today, folks.
Yeah.
Straight
Love it.
gasoline.
Okay. Yeah, he hates them.
Again, he's like,
This is the best
Yeah.
martini I've ever had, and I've
Thank
had
you.
like 3.
Really?
thank you.
Wow.
Remember, just read the lines we gave you.
Yeah. You see that up there? No, I'm just kidding.
All right, Jeremy, what do we got today?
We have some cool stuff going on. Obviously, there's the headlines of what NAR's going on through right now. It's like the $1.7+ billion that they might be having to pay. And everyone's talking about that it's going to change our industry, change real estate as we know it, blah, 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 blah. Those are just headlines. Little fact is Washington has changed our commission package and all that 2 years ago. So we've kind of already have experienced this, so I really don't see it changing much. But if it does, it leads into our question is why should someone use a real estate agent? Why should they use a lender? Well, I mean, obviously, why should they use a lender? But what makes us good, and why should they, want to work with good lenders and good realtors? So, yeah, going into that. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about what I would look for in an agent if I was a home buyer. You talk about what you look for in a lender, and then Ben, being newer into real estate, I think it'd be good to kind of hear his input of what it was like before as an agent and what he would give advice to people now getting into it. So do you want to start off? You want me to start off?
Well, before we start that, I have a question. When do you do your continuing ed for the year? Is it like, do you have to do it on an annual basis?
We have to do it every 2 years,
Oh, it's every 2.
but it's I think your first one's 90 hours, then it's 60 hours, something like that. I got to look at mine's coming up right now. I got to go do that.
Yeah, no, I've been working on mine. The reason I brought it up is because I wanted to say 2 words that frighten loan officers. Biosig.
What?
Nobody knows what that is, but mortgage folks do.
Getting-
Anyway, so what did you ask me?
All right, I'm just going to jump into this one.
Okay, why don't you go first?
Okay, so I think as a realtor, when you're looking for a good real estate agent, you need to make sure, one, they're listening to you, right? Because that's the biggest one. They're helping you figure out your needs and all that. There's all the other stuff, the negotiating, helping you through the transaction, all that, and it really is complex. So a lot of people think they can do it themselves, but do they know all the forms? Probably not. Do they know there's different contingencies you can do? Probably not. So that's what you're paying for as your realtor. So that's kind of what we do in the nutshell. But I think the biggest thing is just those little questions, what is earnest money? What is closing costs? Because maybe they don't think about that when they're talking, with you, and just different things like that. So I think it's good to have someone who listens, but also is there to advise you through the whole transaction. And also, know what they're talking about. Like, so knows what the zoning is. So for instance, let's say Ben is looking for a home, and I've actually have had this happen before. We're searching all these homes, and on like the 10th home, they're like, yeah, I think we want to get chickens. Well, I'm like, well, it's good to know that, because if there's CCRs, you can't have chickens on a lot of them, livestock or things like that. So a lot of people don't think about that type of stuff. Or if you have a business and you want to have a business in your home, well, some CCRs or HOAs don't allow that. Well, how are you supposed to know that? That's what the realtor is kind of there for. So I think it's just finding a person who really like listens to your needs, helps with that, and also has a good relationship with their lender.
Yeah, I mean, what about sewer and septic? What about if they're on a well? There's so many different things, and there's so many contractual things. I listen to all the time, and the meetings and whatnot when you're talking about the different things that are going on for contracts, and that's I think a lot of what you're doing on your continuing ed, right?
Yeah.
But it is amazing, and if you just think, I want to save a couple bucks, and I want to try to list my house myself,
Yep.
and then God forbid you get the buyer who also is not being represented, that's a recipe for disaster.
Oh my God.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
So, Ben?
Yeah. What's your input? Like, from being kind of where you are to now, you've been at like what, a little over a year?
Going on 2 years and a couple months here.
Jeez,
So,
wow, time flies by.
no, yeah, I think the biggest thing, kind of like what you said before, is just that everybody, especially nowadays, everybody thinks that they can read a book or two or an article online, and they think that they know everything about the process. And
Real estate
what
for
needs to be
dummies.
done. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people think nowadays that they can just read those and then save a bunch of money, which, like you said, as a buyer's agent, we're free. We don't,
Yeah.
the people buying the home don't have to pay us anything. So that's a pretty big misconception. But just with how many people think today that they can, or, they just go to the bank and just get a loan, as opposed to going to a loan officer and actually finding out different programs and things like that. It's just that you need somebody who is experienced in this field. One, all the legalities of it between different contingencies, purchase and sale contracts. These are all legally binding documents that, if you, miss a step or something like that, it could potentially have terrible, terrible consequences.
Or kind of what you're saying too is like, even the bank, for instance, right? Let's say they go to a Chase and they just go get approved. They're like, sweet, I'm approved. But they're, let's say, FHA or, VA, and they want to go buy a condo and they're not using an agent. Well, what if that condo is not VA or FHA approved? Or what if the house isn't in the good condition where it would pass those type of loans? You know who knows that?
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
And I think a good example is the possible land deal that I brought to you a couple of weeks ago. But Todd, being the great human that he is, he ended up telling my client that what Todd could offer was not going to be the best loan possible for him. So then he went to his local bank and then ended up going through a program from there. But just things like that, if Todd wanted to take advantage of someone and get them locked in at like a 12% interest rate, that's not really helping anybody out. So what Todd did was just told him the honest truth. And then that guy went to his local bank and found the right program for him. So
you're a good guy. You're a stand-up guy.
Thanks a lot. Well, in that situation, I mean, it didn't make sense, for me to get involved, but just being honest with the customer, being honest with the client, just telling them like, look, there's a better way to go here.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest piece. You got to have people that are understanding, right?
Yep.
I mean, there are so many little things, right? You may not think, excuse me, you may not think that.
That's because it's so dirty. It's like.
I know, it's like, whew. But you may not think that, how am I going to save for my down payment?
Yep.
But what I'm going to do each month is I'm going to cash advance $2,500 from my credit card for the next, 10 months, and then I'll have $25,000. That doesn't work.
Is that not a good idea?
That does not work. And those are the kinds of things you need to know up front, right?
Yeah.
You need to know about what your closing costs would be, because
Yep.
you come and you analyze this and you say, I want to buy a house for $300,000. So if I put 3% down, then all I need is $9,000 to close this.
Yep.
Not accurate, right? There's ways to do it, maybe working with an agent who can then potentially get a seller credit or something along those lines. But there's so many different pieces. Income, whether it's bonus, commission, overtime, hourly, salary, there's a different thing for everything. It depends how long you've been doing it, whether we can use it or not. So there's just a lot to know, and I think that it's very important, again, if you go into your local bank and they ask you, how much money do you make? And you say, I make $5,000 a month, and they write you up a pre-approval letter, but they didn't ask you where'd that $5,000 come from?
Yep.
I started my job last month, and last month I made $5,000 hourly with a bunch of overtime, and I got a bonus, and some of it was commission.
But I think that's what you
None
do.
of that's going to be used.
Yeah, but you do a good job at that. Like, is you kind of go through them like a fine-tooth comb to make sure that nothing's going to happen that's going to make the deal fall apart.
Right.
You know, and I think that's key as a lender, right? Is doing that, because going back to your site, like go to your local bank, you get the pre-approved, you go shop for a house, you find that dream home, you go into contract, 15 days in, oh, sorry, you're not approved. I didn't know that you had $30,000 in a credit card or something like that. So
you also have to have, experience and confidence to be able to look at something, especially in a market we're in right now, right? Which is, it's slow, and every transaction is very important to people's paycheck, right?
Yep.
But if I see on day one that this income looks kind of questionable, and I don't think this may not work.
Yeah.
And I don't tell you that, and we get days and potentially weeks down the road, and then I'm like, hey, I've tried everything, but I can't make this work. It doesn't make you happy either.
Yeah.
Because now we're in a whole different situation where if day one I called you and said, hey, I don't think this is going to work, here's why, and here's the situation. Much easier to unravel things at that point.
Yeah.
Right? But you got to be able to say it. It's not, people want to try to, hold something together that maybe isn't there.
Well, because there's nothing worse than you go get that approval, right? And, let's say cars, for instance. You're going to shop in the Lamborghinis, and you come to find out you can't buy a Kia. It's like, you just went from this to this. Nothing wrong with the Kia.
I was going to say, they're a lot nicer than
They are
used
a
to
lot
be.
nicer, yeah. But
I think they have America's best warranty.
I always try and tell people, especially people around my age, especially buying their first home, is to reach out to lenders before you're I want to buy a house next week. Reach out to them months before, because like you just said before, there's tons of things that people, I made $5,000 last month from my job. Well, some of that stuff isn't going to get counted. Stuff that you guys will know the ins and outs of. And then I always tell people, talk to them before, months in advance before you're actually ready to start shopping for a house, because you can tell them, okay, your credit needs to get better by this much. You need to make this much more. Things like that, so that when they're ready to go actually buy a home, they can feel confident in what they're doing. They know their lender knows all the ins and outs of their finances and how much they make and how much is going out and things like that. So,
well, it's way less stressful too if you prepare ahead of time.
Yeah, it's a little bit different as well as if you're with someone who a couple months ago, I brought you those folks that had a ton of equity in their home. They both had really good, well-paying jobs. You were able to get those guys approved in like a day. Those are different cases. But for people that are, buying their first home, or maybe aren't super confident about their income or their debts and stuff like that, is reach out to lenders early.
Oh, I get paid all cash.
Yeah.
It's underneath my bed. Yeah. What do you do?
And make a plan.
Yeah.
You must have a vending machine route.
No, I think it's good, and kind of going to the next. The next question is, why is it important to have a lender and agent relationship? I think for me, especially dealing with, I'm not going to say like the bank, but this one bank, they won't even talk to me. And so what do I have to do? I have to go talk to Mr. Buyer and say, hey, can you go ask them this question, because they won't even talk to me. And if it's 4:00 in the afternoon, you're at work, that sucks. It's making you do more work. So I think if you have those relations where, like you and I, you can call me, hey, we got to get this figured out, or I'm able to kind of know what we're looking for when we're looking into a home. What's your input?
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to banks, excuse me again, and this isn't the case with all loan officers that work at banks, of course, but a lot of times on weekends, on a Sunday,
Yep.
In the evening at 9:00, it's not usually when they're working, so it can be a little more challenging. And as you guys know, you're not always making deals happen between 9 and 5.
Yeah.
These tend to happen in the evening a lot, most
a
of the
weekend?
time. Yeah, most of the time, evening and weekends is when they happen. And that's where, having that conversation. And I think it is, having a good conversation and being able to tell you the honest truth of, I'm concerned, and here's why. And you need to know that information before you're going to make that offer.
Yeah.
I can't tell you everything, obviously, because that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
But I can at least tell you, I would wait.
Yep.
I need to get this 100% underwritten before you make
sure.
that offer. We can have a conversation about what percentage do I think it is, and you can make the decision ultimately. But, it's, you want to know. And especially right now. Like you said, it's not fun to get down the road and have to unravel any of this. It's not good for anybody.
No.
It's not good for the buyer, the seller, you, me. Nobody. So it's better to have that, fully pre-approved loan. We have the communication the whole way, so that we just know we have a good deal there.
Yeah.
I feel like going to the lender is like going to the doctor. You should be honest with them, because they're trying to
Well,
to
that's a
help.
little different. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not 100% honest, but I mean,
You gotta hide some things.
But it is 100%. I mean, that's it, and it's not always easy.
No.
There are some things, and but if you're the the client and you're going to the lender, it is important that they tell us everything.
Yep.
How they get paid, how everything works, how long they've been on their job, and it's not. I've been there about 2 years. A year and 8 months is not 2 years.
Yeah.
It isn't. And if you're getting
You're a
overtime,
little
you're getting
shy.
bonuses, any of that stuff, it's going to be a problem. So,
Yep.
we need to make sure we have exact dates and can figure that out.
Cool. No, I think that's good. I think, kind of take this all in a nutshell is just make sure you vet your agent out, your lender out, make sure you have a good team behind you. Obviously, we're here to help if you have any questions. But to wrap it up, I need some water after this.
Yeah, I also do.
This is
I
very...
feel like I just drank a glass full of salt.
Yes. So, well,
But-
cheers.
Ben, how was your first episode? How'd you like it?
I loved it.
Okay, I thought you brought a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.